I so look forward to the day when we're in a room together and can hear one another sing. Good morning, my fellow travelers. Thank you for being here today. For some of you who may not know this, until just June, just a bit over a month ago, my work and my ministry was with the Canadian Unitarian Council as a congregational life lead for the congregations in Eastern Canada. I did that work for 23 years. I have visited many congregations, and it may not surprise you to hear that Unitarian and Universalist congregations I have visited, each is a bit different than the other. We have no standard liturgy. We have some texts, but they're not the only text, so we don't have a standard text or prayer book. Most congregations do use the Singing the Living Tradition and the Teal book that followed, Singing the Living Tradition, where our reading was found. Our worship has evolved with some differences and peculiarities in each community. The organizational structure is different from one congregation to the next. Some congregations are very tired, hanging on maybe just by a thread, and others are vital and growing. Some of our congregations are tiny, fewer than 10 members. Others are large. Some are new, some are old. Most of the congregations in Canada were founded as Unitarian congregations, but some, Halifax, North Hatley, Quebec, and Olinda, out near Windsor, were founded as Universalist congregations. This congregation was founded in 1845. Quite a few others were founded in the late 50s and early 60s, and we have a couple that are very new. There's one forming now on the West Coast. We are theologically, geographically, organizationally a diverse group of people. But in other ways, we're not really so different. In the important things, we're quite similar. We love our congregations. We want them to thrive because we know that what we do here matters. We gather so that the atheist, the agnostic, the mystic, and the pagan, and the unsure can come together to learn from one another. We come together in communities in this community, not united by dogma, but rather by a hope for what human community might look like. We come with open minds and open hearts, daring to meet together, daring to sit and talk, and daring to be changed by one another. We come with hearts brimming and hearts broken, so that we can be assured we are not alone. Time and time again in my work, I was privileged to see people committed to potential, to hope, to being good companions. And now with you, I'm seeing the same things. And after all this time, after all these years, I'm still amazed, and I find my breath literally taken away sometimes. We like to describe ours as a living tradition. Edmund Burke, the 18th century British parliamentarian, said a tradition could only be described as a living tradition if it is a partnership between those who are dead, those who are living, and those who are yet to be born. That means it adjusts to new circumstances and environments and times. It does not stay the same because, well, that's the way it is, or that's who we are. Nor does it follow the fancy of popular whim. A living tradition is, in my mind, both considered and changeable. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, in the reading we just read together, wrote, "One hands down and another takes up the heritage of mind and heart, laughter and tears, musing and deeds. Love, like a carefully loaded ship, crosses the gulf between the generations." Being part of a living tradition makes us travelers from what was, through what is, and towards what is yet to come. Now, I think we've all been around enough to know that traveling can be complicated business. We must ask, where are we traveling from? Where are we now? What's our purpose in traveling? What do we know about our destination? And we must ask, how do we equip our ship so that we're able to make the journey? And where are we traveling from anyway? Unitarianism formally came to Canada in 1832 in Montreal. In those early days, the Montreal congregation was made up of American and British members. And in a workable compromise, their first minister, William Cordner, was Irish. Universalism came early, and of our existing congregations, Halifax was founded first in 1837. It was founded amid much protest about the dangerous notions of a loving God and of universal salvation. The press for the time was not friendly to them, and they formed a congregation that exists today. Here in Toronto, in July 1845, 180 years ago, a Unitarian congregation was founded. In January 1846, their constitution was adopted, and it asserted that a key principle was to maintain the free exercise of private judgment in all matters of the rejection of all tests, creeds, or formal declarations of belief. It also made explicit, interestingly, that females should have the same privileges as members of the society as exercised by males. That was pretty radical for 180 years ago. Their neighbors were suspicious. The Presbyterians, Methodists, and Congregationalists were not happy about these new people in town. Between 1945 and 1961, it was an age of socially mandated church or religious attendance. During those years, there were 16 new congregations founded in Canada. And I've spoken to some of the people who were involved in starting those congregations, and they felt that given the extreme pressures they experienced about needing to attend church, they wanted to found one that would at least give them some freedom of belief. Many of the congregations founded in Canada in that time could best be described as Unitarian humanist. During the late 50s and heady 60s, many of our church schools were brimming. Toronto was one of them. This congregation was instrumental in supporting the beginnings of other congregations in the regions. And Unitarians were at the forefront of many Canadian discussions on issues such as the death penalty, healthcare, women's issues, religion in schools, and the civil rights movement in the US. In the years since the 60s, we have seen new UU congregations, and we've seen some disband. Our congregations and members have been and still are involved in the movement to ensure rights for gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer individuals. We and our members have considered how we can better respect the earth, how to promote a culture of peace, how to address pervasive poverty, how to drink from the well of world religions in a respectful way. Currently in Canada, there are about 4,000 members in 44 congregations. This congregation has, like many, seen dips and peaks in membership. So that is a very condensed version of Canadian U history. And it's factual, but I think we must, if we're to honor the stories, honor the people who are part of those stories, we must stop and ask, what does it mean? As we read earlier, we live not by things, but by the meanings of things. It is needful to transmit the passwords from generation to generation. How does our little slice of history help us to understand our journey? And what glimpses of our destination does it offer? Does it whisper passwords to us? We know that throughout human history, religion has developed in relationship to the life of the people. In India, the Ganges River is important to many religious observations. Seasonal changes are observed in many traditions. We are aware of a dim resonance with ancient traditions, but they, for the most part, do not serve us in the way they might have earlier people. A professor at Carleton University, Peter Emberley, remarked in his book, Divine Hunger, Canadians on a Spiritual Walkabout. He said that to be modern is to accept that self-determination, the liberty of private conscience and personal experience will nearly always trump older ways of knowing and being. It is to believe that humans are essentially rational and autonomous. It is to understand that reason and science will trump ancient traditions. That's his definition of what it means to be modern. And in large part, that is what led to the founding of many of our congregations, particularly those that were started in the 1950s and 60s. But increasingly, I have a sense that people are asking, is that enough? Indeed, there is a sense in our culture and in our congregations that some of the understandings of science and those that are permitted in everyday life might not be quite enough for some of us. So here we are, people who are evolutionarily not much different from those who painted on the insides of caves and who have a vast body of scientific information. We're people here today who have made the choice to participate in religious community and in this particular form of religious community. The questions we are faced with now are similar to those faced by earlier generations. But given the secular nature of Canadian society, they may have a new urgency to them. What is our purpose in traveling, and where are we going? Emberley, in his study of Canadians and their spiritual journey, notes that integral to most religious understandings is a critique of the current society. He says that spiritual searches speak to an idea of humanity and community as yet unrealized. So essentially what we do when we gather here is what people have always done when they explore religion and philosophy and spirituality. They ask the big questions. What's the meaning of my life? How can I live a life of integrity? How can my life matter? We are in our spiritual, religious, theological, philosophical travels, whichever word you're most comfortable using, trying to make our values and the world fit together, to make our lives matter. I know these things are important to me, and I know from the choices you make and the work you have been doing and the work you're planning and the conversations I've been part of, that those to you too. I believe that science partnered with a sense of mystery and majesty can help show us the way. I see people here today who believe that community can heal, that change is possible, and there's a power bigger than individuals. The founding goals of this congregation over 180 years ago included the free exercise of private judgment in all matters of belief and the rejection of all tests, creeds, or formal declarations of belief. Maybe we'd rephrase that today. Maybe we'd say something like our purpose in gathering this community was to provide a spiritual home for people free of creedal requirements so they could explore their relationship with the purpose and meaning of life freely. But on second thought, maybe I should leave the original. Those folks might have been more succinct and concise than I am. But at the heart of it, what they were trying to do, what we're trying to do, is just make sense of it all. We're just trying to be good people, trying to foster a culture of openness so that we can live with dignity and generosity in the world. I know because of the opportunities my work has afforded me that we in our congregations help one another with this work of being human. Sometimes it happens on Sunday morning when we gather in services. Sometimes it takes place in adult or children's programs. Sometimes it happens when someone challenges the assumptions of another, not always comfortable. Sometimes it takes place with a hug or a casserole or a protest march. Sometimes it takes place in groups, and sometimes in the conversation and spaces between people. But I know from personal experience and from my observations that this life-affirming work happens in our congregations. It happens in this congregation. When I stop and think about my experiences through my work with the Canadian Unitarian Council and as a member of the Hamilton congregation, and most recently with you, I know to the core of my being that I have been helped and supported on my human journey. I am less sure of the clever answers I thought I had figured out. I'm more willing to listen to the religious perspective of others. I've let go of things. I've learned that church and congregation and community life isn't about me and my preferences, but rather it's about us holding space for one another. People have given me the gift of encouragement and honesty, have encouraged me to see hope when I didn't know where to look for it. And in the process, I have been changed. And in the process, I have developed a profound commitment to building community and congregations. I know that our particular religious perspective and approach is not universal. But I am not convinced that every Canadian who would in time share my gratitude and commitment to congregations, I'm not convinced that they even know we're here. I believe that's part of my call, to help our congregations understand how they can show those who we don't yet know, how we can show those people deep hospitality. Our job, like those hardy souls who gathered here 180 years ago, is to encourage others to find their path cooperatively so that we can support one another and live our values of love and justice. Things change and things don't change. I do not know what congregational life is going to look like in the future. Not even the near future. We're not in the building yet. There are so many questions and unknowns. We're going to figure it out together. I don't know what religious and spiritual communities are going to look like. There's a lot of theorizing and writing and head scratching and hand wringing going on about this. And you might think that with my, fancy theological education, I might have some answers, but I don't. What I do have is questions. I have hunches. And I have a few ideas about how we can use the signposts of the past and the present to help us map our way into the future. There's a lot of talk lately about how our congregations need to appeal to both the head and heart so that we can appeal to the older, typically humanist members of our communities, and also to those who might be interested in engaging with us and who are seemingly more willing to explore the unknowable. And some people would say, no, it's head, and some people would say it's heart. But I can't help but think that head versus heart is a false distinction. Not one of us gets to leave either of those at home on Sunday morning or whenever else we gather. We bring them both and we bring more. We bring our whole selves, or at least that's my sincere hope. So no, I don't know what our communities will look like, but I have some thoughts about what we will do there and how we will feel. Brain scientists tell us they've been surprised to learn that feelings and impulses like love, generosity, trust, and hope seem to come quite naturally to humans. We have learned, it seems, over the slow journey of evolution to cooperate in mutually supportive communities. They tell us, too, that our brains become habituated. We learn by doing. We already knew that about playing the piano and riding bicycles and other things. But we also now know that it's true about our feelings too. We, they tell us, act our way into our feelings. So when we gather in our communities and we carefully craft the communities we dream of, we are also becoming the people we aspire to be. The particulars of this music or that music, of pews or chairs, of responsive readings, or any other specific practice is less important than is our working together to promote openness and cooperation so that we can, in the long run, make our dreams a reality. Our job is to listen for the passwords, to turn our heads just so that if we sit in that in-between place, we can gain some insight into the future we can't quite see. Earlier, we sang a song. As I said, I wish we could have done it together in a room. Soon, we hope. so that we could hear one another sing. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. So how shall we equip our ship so that we can make this strange journey? What have we packed? What is still needed? Sailing along this gulf between Unitarian and Universalism as it was and as we dream it might be, vital, alive, and sustaining and relevant for those who aren't even yet born, we find ourselves in strange waters. We are afloat in a diverse, modern, secular society, one that provides little support for those who long for mystery and wonder and meaning. Our congregations respond to those needs, serving some as lifeboats and others as springboards. Congregations wonder how best to navigate the waters they find themselves in. How can we support growth? What would it mean to broaden our demographic profile? How can we offer sustaining and supportive ministry to more people? Many of you find ways to act for good in the world. Always more we can do. There is still more justice to be made, more love to be learned. There are still people who would respond to our affirming theology. We don't know yet how easy our journey is going to be, and we don't know what's going to be needed from us in the work of the world. In a Jewish text, Ethics of the Fathers, the commentator Rabbi Tarfon writes, "It was not granted to you to complete the task, and yet you are not free to desist from it either." We on this Canadian UU journey of faith do not yet know how our living tradition will evolve, nor do we know exactly who it's going to serve. But we know that we are on an amazing journey of interdependence and that we are traveling together. You, me, the trees, the wind, our ancestors, every person who ever was, and everything that will ever be. Love is like a carefully loaded ship. It crosses the generations. Our seas may be calm, they may be rough. We don't know where or when our journey will end. We do know, though, that we are stewards of a faith tradition that was given to us in partnership and trust by those who have gone before. That we have a responsibility to sail our ship mindfully and carefully into the future, so that we deliver it into the keeping of the unborn partners of our living tradition. I know something else too. I know I am blessed to be here with you on board our ship as we set out together on the next leg of our journey. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for letting me travel with you.